Well, hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back. I hope you guys are doing wonderful out there. I've got an interesting video for you today. We're going to be talking about Alone Grizzly Mountain in this video. We're talking about Season 8 of Alone, and in this episode, we are dealing with Episode 6. Now the name of this episode is Smoked. I got my notes here, so if you haven't seen this episode of Alone, I highly recommend that you turn this video off, go watch that episode, and come back if you want to hear my thoughts. This was a good episode, and this video will contain massive spoilers. A lot happened in this episode. So we're going to get started right off the bat with the quote that's on the screen. And it says, "Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out." This is by Robert Collier, and he's an American author of self-help type books. So very interesting quote there. Let's go ahead and get started with this episode. It's day 22. 22, why does that ring a bell? 22 American veterans commit suicide every single day. Mission 22, right? Day 22. We have 6 people left. It's a little bit after noon. I'm hoping that I'll see somebody do some push-ups for Mission 22 on this episode. We're starting off with Clay. The last time, or the last episode, they left us hanging at the end. Clay saw a deer. He was on the track of a deer. He had fresh sign. And he drew his bow back and he was getting ready to take a shot. Well, in this episode, he takes the shot, he hits the deer, he's kind of nervous, I guess, like shaking. He sees a blood trail, and the blood was frothy. And when you see frothy blood, it's a pretty good indicator that you've had a lung shot in this deer. So he's kind of following this trail of blood a little bit. He finds his arrow. It was a wooden arrow that was broken. So very interesting. And then it kind of shows a little bit other stuff, and then it comes back and it shows that he actually got the buck. He was very tentative at first about going over there right away. He said that could be a bad mistake. I have to trust his judgment. This guy hunts a lot. So he says, I'm not going to go over there right now. You know, I'm going to give it a little bit of time, which he did. And then eventually he went over there and saw that he had the buck. It was down, it was dead. And very, very interesting. Now, from what we could see on the show and what the annotation was on the screen and stuff like that, said that this was a black-tailed deer, approximately about 130 pounds. So Clay decides he's going to quarter out this deer and take it back to his shelter, which is 2.5 miles away. So you could imagine the amount of work that he's got to do. You know, he's got to process the deer, he's got to skin the deer, he's got to gut the deer, he's got to quarter the deer, he's got to carry all that back to shelter on top of all the camera gear. Could you imagine how many calories and how much work just that process alone is? That's got to be a lot of work. So we're moving forward. We're still on day 22. We're talking about Coulter. There is 6 people left, and he's showing his beard. He's up close to the camera, and he's showing his beard, and it's kind of woolly. He says, I don't remember having gray hair in my beard. Very interesting. And then he talks about that he's been picking onions, he's been picking rose hips, and he's been picking cranberries every single day. And he's got this amount of food that he's been harvesting, that he's been storing. And he put the cranberries in a hole, and I think he put like a rock over it or something like that. And then he's talking about if he wins the money, if he wins the show, that he would like to help other people, which I thought was fantastic. Such a good, genuine offer, you know, and it just goes to show the kind-hearted type person that Coulter is. He wants to help other people be able to enjoy the wilderness. So much love and respect to Coulter for that. Let's move forward. We're on day 22, a little after 4:30. 6 people left. We're talking about Nate. And he's got his face kind of close to the camera, and he's talking about how he's losing weight. And his face is sunken in. You can see his cheekbones and stuff. And he decides that he's going to go check his fishing line. Remember, he had the pier that he built out there. So he goes out there, and on the way there, he's talking about he misses his family. He also said something that I never knew, in the fact that he grew up without a dad. And that's something that I can relate to, because I didn't have my father either growing up. So very interesting there. I can relate to him on that. And then he starts saying that his passion is his family. So I get a little nervous anytime I hear somebody out there starting to talk about family and stuff like that, or friends, because it kind of makes me wonder if they're starting to mentally check out, which I don't think that's the case with Nate. He's very mentally tough. So then he's out there checking on his fish line, and he does have a fish on the line. The pier was working good. He's bringing the fish in. The fish is close to the shore, and it's a large, it looks like a bull trout, I think he said. Big fish. The next thing you know, the fish kind of dangles off, and the show goes to commercial, and they leave us hanging. You know, we're wondering, did he lose the fish? Did he get the fish? What's going on with the fish? You know, they love doing that to us. They leave us on these nail biters and these cliffhangers, you know. So the commercial goes, the show comes back, day 22, 4:45 in the afternoon, 6 people. We're still talking about Nate. And what did he do? Well, in my dreams, he dropped down and gave us 22 push-ups for American veterans. But he didn't. That's my personal dream, right? But the show comes back. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. I thought that would be funny. So the show comes back, and it shows that the fish got away. And it was a huge bull trout. So he decides to keep moving forward. He sets the line again, and he goes about his business. Now let's move forward. It's about 5 o'clock. Still on day 22, 6 people left. Back to Clay. He says he's never had a reaction like that to getting a kill. You know, like he was super excited. I think that just won the show for him, possibly, you know, very crazy. So he's super happy. And then there's an annotation that comes on the screen, and it says he has harvested 50 pounds from this deer. And then he talks about cutting this deer meat into strips. He wants to start getting it hung so that he can get some smoke on it. That'll keep the bugs. It'll create like a barrier, keep the bugs off of it. Things of that nature. So in the meantime, he decides that he's going to hang this meat real high. And then there was some kind of annotation that came on the screen, said something to the effect that every participant was given a large piece of rope in the event they needed to hang some meat. So he utilized that rope, and he hung that meat up high so that bears cannot get to the meat. So we're moving forward. It's day 23 now, around 7 o'clock in the morning or so. 6 people left. Coulter, it's snowing outside, and his goal, he's talking about his goal being 100 days out here alone. Then an annotation comes on the screen, and this was kind of weird. I don't understand what this annotation's about, but it just, I mean, I thought it was really weird. And it says, per local hunting regulations, participants are not allowed to gill net until day 45. What does day 45, I mean, are they afraid that they're going to catch all the fish early or something? I don't get that. Anywho, he decides he's going to build a fish trap, And he goes to get some cranberries from his hole, and they're gone. That would be so frustrating. He thinks that it was a bear. You know, we're moving forward. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning now. It shows him, you know, doing his fish trap, and his fish trap looks excellent. I mean, he did a fantastic job on this fish trap. So he takes his boat out there, out in the lake. He doesn't know how deep the water is, but he's out there a ways. Very smart, and he sets that trap. He's got a piece of cordage going from the trap up to like a little branch that's he's got out there for like a float, like a buoy or something for this fish trap, so he knows where it's at. Super, super cool and super smart. So we're moving forward. It's about 11:45 or so. We're still on day 23. 6 people left. We're talking about Teresa. It's raining outside, and she's ready to move into her pit house. So she decides to test the shelter by building a fire inside to see how it's going to vent. Is it going to smoke the house? Is it going to vent the smoke? What's going to happen? She wants to find out. And she finds out that the house does not allow the smoke to go out, which raises a concern for her. She doesn't want to end up with smoke inhalation. This could be carbon monoxide poisoning. She's aware of this. So she's seeing all this smoke in the house, and she realizes at this point that it's too early to actually move in to her pit house if she wants to have a fire inside it at least. So she knows that she's got more work to do. So very smart on her part to think about all that stuff. Now we're moving forward, day 23 still. A little bit after 2 o'clock, 6 people. We're talking about Nate. You know, after losing that fish, he got a little frustrated, but he's making a correction. He decided to make a landing net for this fish. It's 30 degrees outside Fahrenheit. He's drinking some water from his cast iron Dutch oven, and he's talking about the water was a little bit warm. And he hasn't ate meat in over 6 days. The net looks fantastic. He did a really good job on it. So he decides he's going to go check out the fishing pole again and see if he's got any luck out there. He wants to test the net, but he needs a fish to test the net, right? So he does. He has a fish on the pole. It's a small fish, and he scoops it up with the net. The net works great. I noticed that the water was kind of choppy, a little bit rough, so maybe some wind out there. And he said something that was interesting. The fish that he actually caught had bite marks on the side of it, and he's thinking that that fish was actually in the mouth of a larger fish, and the larger fish took off, but he did have a smaller fish, but he's still happy about it. It's calories. So we're moving forward. It's a little bit after 3 o'clock. We're talking about Clay. 35 degrees outside Fahrenheit. And he says there's a good sign, you know, he's checking the meat. He says there's no flies on the meat. He's excited about that, no bugs. And he decides that he wants to build a smokehouse. He said he's really happy that he brought his silky saw, which I could agree with him, you know, and he's building a log cabin style smokehouse. Very, very smart. And he says, I know that this house won't stop bears, but I realize that it'll slow them down. It'll give me time to respond to them in the event that a bear comes. And he did something really smart with his smokehouse. He used some of his snare wire to make like lines where he can hang the meat. So very, very, very smart. Clay is a thinker, you know, very smart man. So then an annotation comes on the screen, and it says at this point, Clay has lost 22 pounds since day 1. So he's actually doing pretty good as far as losing weight. He's not doing too bad. Moving forward, we're on day 24. A little bit after 1:30, we're talking about Nate, and he says, I think I drank some squirrel poop in my water yesterday. He was talking about his Dutch oven lid was sitting there and some of the water was in it, and he realized after drinking it that there was some droppings. He's a little bit aware of that. He's a little concerned about that. But his mind is strong, and he's saying, I should be fine. And then he decides he wants to make a rod and reel. He wants to do some fishing. And then he brings up his family again. He talks about missing his boys, missing his wife. And again, like I mentioned earlier, that does raise a concern. it's like when you let your mind go to these places, I always get concerned. So we're moving forward. It's a little bit after 4 o'clock, and Nate is paying attention to his body. He says he's got nauseous a couple hours ago, and he's wondering if it was the squirrel poop. And then there's an annotation that comes on the screen, and it says that squirrel feces can contain salmonella, which can cause nausea, fever, and the chills. And he was already kind of nausea a little bit already. But he is kind of thinking at this moment that it's just a symptom of starvation. So he decides he's going to move forward. He's going to work on getting his fire built. And as he's getting this fire going, he kind of like throws up. I don't know if it's dry heaves or if he actually threw up, but he kind of goes off the screen a little bit. Not off camera, but he's like got his back to the camera, and he's, you know, doing the whole throwing up thing. I don't know if there's anything coming out or not. So let's move forward to about 4:42. We're still talking about Nate, and he takes a step, and I noticed that his footing was a little wobbly, just a little bit. And he says that he's got the shakes now. He's a little bit concerned. And then kind of out of nowhere, he gets the radio and he calls in and taps out. I did not see that coming at all. Nate, I thought, was the one that was going to win the whole show. It was down to him and Clay, in my opinion. And when Nate tapped, I was blown away. I was like, holy smokes. The show is getting real. People are struggling. You know, the show will bring out everything in a person out there. It's crazy. And then it starts snowing. I mean, it's heavy flakes of snow. And he makes a comment. He says, the second that I tap, you know, it starts snowing. Everything's getting real now. It's crazy. And then he says he didn't want to risk his health. He loves his family. The show gave him a break to take a look at his life. And now he realizes what the most important thing in his life is. That's his family. That's his wife, his boys. So good on Nate for making that decision, protecting his body, loving his family. And I appreciate Nate for going on the show and sharing with all of us viewers his wonderful story. Everybody that goes out there on the show, I give mad respect to. I just think it's amazing. So we're moving forward. We're on day 25 now. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock. We are talking about Biko. Now this next part's very interesting. He says, I have a personal rules list. He wrote out some rules. And he says, carry your bow anytime you're out and be aware. That was his rule, his first rule. Second rule, wear gloves anytime using a blade. Very smart. Rule number 3 was keep track of all critical gear. Man, this guy's sharp. I'm really starting to see a side of Biko that I never thought he had. This guy's really starting to blossom. And then his last rule was don't push the effing tap button. Holy smokes. This is crazy. Wow. So he decides he's going to go check out his fish trap, and he has not had any fish since day 1. And at this point, day 25, he's already lost 50 pounds. Holy smokes. That's, you know, I was talking about Clay a minute ago. He lost 22 pounds on like day 23 or something like that. Biko on day 25, 50 pounds. Whoa, that's crazy. Nothing in his fish trap. So he's going to get a fish and he's going to fish with the lure. And that wasn't what his initial plan was, but he's adapting to the situation. Biko is really starting to show that he's in this. It's crazy. He says, I'm a fighter. And then he gets a fish and he's happy. And he still has plenty of weight on his body, or at least that's the way it appeared to me from what I could see. It looked like he was still a little bit heavy. So, I mean, 50 pounds is a lot of weight though. And then he brings the fish in and it's a rainbow trout. It's about just short of 10 o'clock in the morning, day 25. He's happy and he says something that I really liked. He said, thank you, God. Biko gave glory to God. Huge. I thought that was huge. And he talks about while he's cooking the fish that he's making noise, loud noise. He wants the bears and everything to know that he's there. He's singing and just really, I love this guy's personality. He's not only does he have a ton of personality, but he's given us some great television. And we're starting to see another side of him, at least that I didn't think he had. So very interesting. And he says, I'm going to suck the eyes out of the fish from my dad. And so he does, and he yells, "Let me see." Because I guess that's what his dad used to yell. So we're moving forward. It's a little bit after 1 o'clock, day 25. We have 5 people left now. Teresa, she's washing her hair. She said she's tired of the wind. And she decides that she's going to build a fireplace and chimney for her shelter with rocks, and it's coming along well. She's done a good job. And there's an annotation on the screen that says something to the effect that wintertime temperatures can get down to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And she gets this chimney and fireplace built. She decides that she's got it, finished enough, so she wants to test it. So she builds a fire in there, and it gets a good draw. I mean, the fireplace and the chimney and everything, it's venting all the smoke out of her shelter. She realizes at this point that she can move in, and she's happy. So she moves in, and it's about 8:44, day 25 in the evening, and she's got a fire in her shelter. She's laying in her bed, and she's it looked like she took her shirt off. She got some really nice tattoos on her shoulders, and she's just chilling in her shelter. Then we have a brief moment, day 26, 7 o'clock in the morning, 5 people left, with Rose. She said, I had relentless sleep. It was windy. She says, today I'm going to make a door. And there was a board. Apparently on day 8, she found a board that had some nails in it. So she's going to use these old nails to help her make a door for her shelter. And it looks good. She talks about her son going off to college. She talks a little bit about her divorce. And her shelter looks nice. But I think Teresa's got the shelter built pretty well. She's got a really nice shelter. So we're moving forward. We're still on day 26. 5 people left, a little bit after 11 o'clock. We are talking about Clay, and he's sitting there. He has the camera, and he's got this double rainbow behind him. It's a beautiful shot. He's looking at the rainbow, and he says, I don't know what I did to deserve this. Maybe there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. Holy smokes. That's the end of the episode, but that leaves you thinking, because he got a deer, and now he's talking about the rainbow. He's talking about the pot of gold. So it's exciting at this point. It's just crazy. But this was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it. It gave us a little bit of a glimpse of what we're going to see on next week's episode. It looks like it's going to get really, really exciting. Oh my gosh. Just to see another person in Clay to get a deer. I mean, I truly believe that is a game changer. And I'm very impressed how the women are doing. I'm blown away. The ones that I thought were going to quit are still here, and the one that I thought was going to last the longest quit. It's just crazy. So with all that being said, folks, I want to say thank you for joining me today on this video of Alone Grizzly Mountain Season 8, Episode 6. Please drop your comments down below and let me know what you think. Hope you guys are enjoying this commentary. If you got any recommendations or anything, please drop them in the comments. I love reading the comments. And with all that being said, folks, again, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.